Good morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. I think we're 30 seconds ahead, so I'm like trying to share this to my page so people will be on here with us.
Okay, well, I did see the lead-up feed. That was very nice of you to put that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Mike's magic behind the scenes. He always does an awesome job of that. So, anyways, good morning. And I
Hey,
want you to introduce yourself to everybody that's watching with us so they know who you are and where you're from.
well, I'm Peter Goral. I live in southwestern Ontario, Canada. A nice little place called Dundas, near Hamilton. I'm actually originally from the UK, but came here in
Yes,
1967. But
right.
we're pretty much settled in now. So
Yeah,
I'm
since
not.
67.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
settled in.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty settled in. I was going to say, I was looking at things last night and I thought to myself, I'm going to remember where he was from. I'm going to
Right.
remember. No, I can't remember. So where in the UK are you from?
Lancashire.
Right.
Here again, a little small town called Haslingden, with little cobblestones and the whole bit
Yeah.
in the Rossendale Valley, about 30 miles north of Manchester for anybody that
Hmm.
knows the UK. Actually, I may even have family
That
checking in
that
from,
watch?
yeah, that maybe checking in from Burntwood and Birmingham in that space. Yeah, yeah.
You and your wife, was that 2 years ago or maybe three? You went to Wales? You
Oh
did
yeah,
a really
yeah.
nice trip.
Oh, we did. That was a brilliant trip. Actually,
Yeah.
it was Wales. You're right. We actually traveled south to north. We actually did like right from Brighton all the way up to Newcastle. But we did a
Nice.
Airbnb in Wales. It was absolutely brilliant.
I remember following you guys on that trip with your posts because my background is I am part Welsh. So I'm
Oh,
always intrigued when people are like something about Wales that comes up. I'm always interested. So,
yeah. It's a great
um,
country.
yeah,
Yeah,
it looks pretty for sure.
yeah.
So, I was going to say, and tell us what you do for a living.
All kinds of things, but
Yes, you do.
some would say, what shall we say, the jack of all trades, the master of none. But I prefer to call it like a mosaic that's been put together.
Right.
I'm actually a social media business strategist, and that's a big crazy title, but it literally boils down to I help my clients amplify their personal brands.
Right. I love when you post because you always say you are your brand.
That's
And
right.
that's where I think we're going to touch on that, but I also want to mention about you do art as well. You are a painter. And
I am.
I don't know if that's the right term, if that's
No,
yeah,
painter might be.
what
Painter is
is
the
the
guy that
right
goes
term?
into the. Well, I do that too, right?
I
My
work
wife
with
would.
tradespeople.
Yeah,
You're a painter, Peter.
I know yeah, but let's not get carried away with that, right?
Right.
Because I don't do much of that anymore, to my wife's chagrin, because
Hmm.
I think she has a few walls that she'd like to have done right now.
Yes,
An
right.
artist
An
is the correct.
artist. I've got a couple of friends who are also artists, and it's always interesting. You guys see the world in a very different view, and it's always in a very unique and like I always say artists, like especially ones that paint and stuff, they see the world in colors is how I
Right,
describe it.
right.
There's
The
always
other,
a unique
yeah,
perspective.
the other thing that I'm kind of trained to look at are the positive negatives in shapes associated with what I'm looking at. Sometimes I don't actually look at the subject matter, but
Hmm.
the surrounding shape that creates it, so that when they come together, for me, it's a kind of a almost like a sound check,
Oh,
so I say, oh,
yeah.
if that fits this, that's going to be perfect, right? So,
Oh, very
yeah.
interesting. Very interesting. So how did you guys end up coming to Canada? What brought you here
Well, interestingly enough,
in
we did not,
$1967?
we did not come together.
Oh, okay.
Jude was herself a young person, newly married, and came over a week apart. It
Okay.
was a crazy thing, right? And then I was like, you know, a teenager with my family, but we discovered each other later, like much later, like 22 years ago.
Oh,
At a
really?
Yeah. No,
Oh,
we came across each other here in Canada at a friend's spring party that he usually. Yeah,
oh, very cool. That's
yeah,
awesome. So your
yeah.
family, your entire family moved here. I was thinking when you said
Exactly.
1967, I'm like, you and I are fairly close in age, so I don't think maybe you guys weren't married yet because
No, no, we
that
were.
would be weird.
No, no. We've come a long way since then. Like, so
Right.
she came over, I came over, and then we met each other many, many years after that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. What got you into being in the social marketing realm? How did you get started?
Interestingly, I always tell my clients openly, I'm actually not a marketing person. I'm
Yeah.
actually a business development executive and
Right.
an operations guy. So I really understand like the running of an organization, whether it's a small one or a big one. It doesn't matter. I've worked
Hmm.
corporate, I've worked smaller companies. And I realized a number of years ago that these cold calls weren't working.
Yeah.
The dialing for dollars things just wasn't cutting it. And
Right.
it was time to try and create some inbound values. And the only way you can do that is to put something provocative and compelling and exciting up so that they'll actually come and say, hey, I like that.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about you are your brand because
Hmm.
I preach that to people that I work with about you need to put yourself this is your company. They need to
Right,
know you. You are that
right.
company. And I guess we should say how you and I were connected was with a gentleman who did that exceptionally well.
That Mr. J.J. Mays from
Yes.
Alabama.
Yes.
I miss that big lug,
You
he
know,
was, yeah,
we were connected. That's how you and I are connected is through
right,
Twitter, and he
right.
started the flow zone hashtag flow zone.
That was it.
Yeah, and he got a bunch of different people in there and just encouraged everybody to retweet and reshare and however that all worked on Twitter. We were all over there and we all
Right,
got connected, and I'm still connected with a majority of those people in from the flow zone days.
right. Well, JJ and I, we used to chat after
Yeah.
midnight because
Yes.
our days were done.
Yeah.
He'd be sitting there and he'd be having a stogie and a
Hmm.
whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could tell, and families in bed, and
Hmm.
we'd have a chat. We'd actually have a
Yeah.
chat over Twitter, in the DM,
Yeah.
and then he'd get so excited about something that I shared with him. He'd say, "I want you to post that right now because I'm going to send it out to all my 60,000 connections,
Yeah.
and I'm going to insist that they follow you." And I'd
Yes.
like, "I love you, man."
Yeah. Yeah. He was larger than life. And I often say, and Mike and I have talked about this, can you imagine him now?
Oh
Like,
my God.
can you
No,
imagine him
no.
on TikTok and all of the places? He would
Oh
be,
no.
I don't know, he would never get any work done.
Actually, I've never. He was such a hustler,
Yeah.
right, in it of his
Yeah.
life. But when it came down to it, he was a man of simple means.
Yeah.
Really simple means. Like
Hmm.
he loved his family, he loved his daughter. Like it was
Yeah.
just like when you got granular with the guy, you could turn tears on that guy, like in
Yeah.
a heartbeat. Like he
Yeah.
was just that grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, he would call me and he would say to me, because this is before live really kind of started. Like he was kind of at the
Right.
front running of live, Facebook Live,
Right.
and he would call me and he'd go, "Girl, like how come people are watching this?" He goes, "And I'm not like I don't get it." He said, "Because you're being yourself. Like you're
Right.
just being you, probably a little amped up, but I mean,
Right.
for the most part, just being you. And people
Hmm.
like real. They don't want to
Yeah.
see fake. They don't, well, I guess there is a market for that out there, but
Yep.
there, for the most part, people want to see real. They want to see raw and real. And he was very much that and flew
Right.
off the seat of his pants like nobody knew what he was doing.
No,
So when
no.
he, after he was gone, the challenge of trying to rebrand something, because
Mm,
he was his brand, he
right.
was that brand. So that's where it's to me, it's an interesting place to be, because you can get so much you are your brand that if
Right.
something goes sideways or isn't anymore, then it becomes
I
the
know.
challenge. How do you rebrand it?
Yeah. No, and you do, but you do have to do, you have to look for other authentic values inside it.
Hmm.
The thing is that, in a way, JJ kind of did himself out of his own kind of legacy
Right.
because he was such a trailblazer
Hmm.
that nobody could keep up with him, and
Right.
he jumped ahead of it. See, today, if you take a look at a company, what I try to do is I try to build in a succession plan,
Mm.
because I always say when you show me the two top people in the company, okay,
Yeah.
guys, sit down. Now, what happens if one of you gets sick or gets run down by a bus? Who knows what to do,
Right.
right? And that was the thing. That was the only thing that JJ suffered from, is
Yes.
that because nobody stepped up
Yeah.
after him. And
Right.
and it was hard.
Yeah.
I knew how frustrated you were as
Yeah.
his marketing manager,
Yeah.
right? It was like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to
It
get past this.
Yeah, and it didn't, yeah, that went in a whole different direction. But I mean,
Yeah.
so that is a very good point, because a lot of people feel, I think sometimes they are the only person that can do those things, and because it's not, I don't always think of it as they're being a control freak. I think it's just they really are, like, maybe there's only one or two people and they are that person that can only do all of that. So how do you go about building that succession plan with somebody?
Well, one of the things a really well-oiled company operates on is a collective of skill sets, and not any one of us has, kind of the rights or the ownership of all things.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Right.
In JJ's case, he probably should have found something that he could have released early, right?
Yeah.
So you got to say, somebody to do marketing, somebody to look after finances, somebody to
Yeah.
look after operations, like, and use the skill sets and the talents of the people, and,
Right.
and give them access, give people access to them as people too,
Hmm.
because companies are not buildings, companies are
Right.
not locations, as we're proving right now. Not
Yeah.
one of us, I mean, we're all running companies, but guess what? I'm as active as a $300 million company, up
Hmm.
the street. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Because we're either on our phones, we're on internet, we're on Zoom, we're on live
Hmm.
chats. It's such a level playing field. So I try to get people to start out, even before this, start out thinking in terms of what if, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially right now, I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the finance realm, and they've all been distributed, obviously have to work from home. And I said to her, it's going to be interesting to see where companies, like a big company that she works for, or any company just in general that was brick and mortar,
Right.
paying big leases, having the big fancy office setting, is now realizing, hang on a minute, maybe people can work from home.
Right.
Maybe they're going to be more productive. Not everybody can work from home, and I'm not suggesting that, but maybe the downsizing of the brick and mortar, taking
Right.
that extra money, putting it into your people, and
Right.
seeing like commuting's cut down, no, but like the stress level should be maybe a little bit less, hopefully. All of those things. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
I think that to some extent, I know you hear a lot of people complaining about it, but to some
Hmm.
extent, I think there's been a little bit of release on the part of some particular businesses. When I think about, you know, and creativity too has been released, because I've seen people actually pull things together. I collaborate right now with an events coordinator,
Hmm.
and she has a great business, Modern Concierge. Shout out to Tina Iaquinta,
Yeah.
and she's a partner of mine, and we literally are just setting up businesses events online, and they can be just as spectacular, right? Because there's no holds barred. You can do some great things if you've got some fantastic people behind you doing video and messaging. You can still get those things to the screen, and there's so many essential businesses: finance, real estate, high tech. You know, these things have to go on because in many cases they're the support to the infrastructure. Like if they didn't continue, all the healthcare data wouldn't be around, all the financial data wouldn't be around. Like we'd all crumble. That's all there is to it. So that can be operated in the cloud, as they say, easily.
Yeah. And, you know, we were talking about, Mike and I have talked about that before, and you and I got talking about trade shows and different things, and that was back in probably February, I guess you and I were talking about that, and just how this is pre all of what's going on right now, but we were talking about how those events need to be changed because the way of the event or conference or trade show, whatever you want to call it, from 1985 is not as effective as it should be today.
And you know, there's people who hate them, and there's people who love them. The people that hate them don't know how to use them. That's the reality. I've been in business where trade shows have been kind of almost a bloodline. And when I think of the spray foam industry that you support, that's very big because you need to get eyeball to eyeball with somebody who's going to be a business collaborator. Take a look at the newest piece of information or equipment, right? You know, got to test it out. Now, I know that that's challenging in some cases right now, but I dare say that those events will be better run forcing people into this virtual format.
I think so too.
Because here's what I think happens. You get to speak to meaningful individuals. The only people that show up are the people that care. And the one beef I had about the traditional trade show is the waste of money and the waste of energy that companies used to do. Oh, I'm going to send my whole team down to Florida, right? Yeah. And then bang, $30,000 and $10,000 for a booth, and you know, and all, like, and maybe one handshake and two names. Like, what's that all about?
Yes. And that's the thing, like, you know, just from my perspective, is it's geared in, I would say, not just spray foam, but outside of spray foam, in any of those trades related kind of those shows. Outside of the trade show part where you're wandering around and talking to people at their booth, there has to be value for the contractor that's going to that event, because like you said, to send a whole team somewhere, now you're shutting down your business, because what if there's only 3 of you? You know, you run it and you've got 2 guys that help you, or, you know, however it works. You're now going to shut down for a week. You've got to pay for flights, you got to pay for food, you got to pay for drinks, you know, that's a massive expense. So there needs to be a shift in how that looks, and there needs to be value for that, because I think while there's a place for the whole let's get together and drink our faces off and do that thing that they do, and that's all good and fine if that's your thing, I think there needs to be education and certifications and all of those things encompassed in there as well. Right.
In fact, I know people are going to hate me for it, but I speak my mind anyway. The reality is those trade shows were old boys club efforts, right? And that's gone away. I'm sorry, guys. Like, you know, go to Florida, play golf, or what? Well, when you can. Right. But leave this to the futurists, because, you know, like you said, when I go to a show like that, I'm going because I need information, and I actually want to meet and see somebody. And what I'll usually do is I'll usually set that up before I even get there, and we'll do sidebar, right? Or we'll do and that's the best way to work it. Yeah. You know, that's the only way. It's the only way to work it. I used to say I'd only go to a session like that if I knew I was going to meet at least a half a dozen people, and I'd know that they were going to be there. And if they weren't going to be there, I wouldn't show up. I wouldn't go. That's all there is to it.
And the other thing too is I think for spouses that go, there
Mm,
needs to be something for the spouses as well, because let's face it, the spouse is doing the behind the scenes stuff that makes you able to do your job and go and whatever.
right.
Whether that's a husband or a wife, it doesn't matter, but there needs to be stuff there too. And that's where I came away from what I was at, and I was like, there should be business, like little miniature like business courses and accounting and like
Yeah,
basic business 101, because a lot of people may run their business, they've never taken any kind of courses, and maybe there's something
right,
they're missing, and that's the
right.
place where they could learn that.
Yeah. You just came off a bad experience just before
Well,
that.
it was a
In
good
Vegas?
experience.
Is
No,
it
it
Vegas?
was in California. It was in
Oh,
California. It was a good experience. The networking part of it was phenomenal.
okay.
It's the missing part to me was having more stuff for people that are attending that are paying big
Right,
money to go. But
right.
and I know those are not easy to put on, and I know they're not easy to organize, and it costs money and all of that, and I get that. But I think there could be some restructuring,
Right.
just improvements, right? Because
No, I agree.
I think the personal development side of things maybe can be input there as well, because people need that probably more than ever.
Sounds like the making of a new Carla event planning
Yeah,
business.
right. I don't have enough to do. I'm going to start that too. Well, you
Stop
never
it.
know.
No,
You
no.
never know, Peter.
We
You
have to
just never.
retool. These times
Yeah.
like this, we have to retool ourselves.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And I'm a big fan of doing that anyway. Whether there's
Hmm.
something like because otherwise you get complacent, right? You have to
Yes.
disrupt yourself. Otherwise,
Hmm.
it's like, oh, it's just same old, same old. I know it's
Yeah.
nothing exciting, right? And
Right.
I'm not like that. I'm actually one of these characters that's attracted by new,
Hmm.
invigorating, compelling.
Yeah.
I think it's because I work at creating that so much
Right.
that I need that kind of energy back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how are you strategizing with your people right now? Because right now it's like a very uncertain time, and people
Yep.
are very scared and very like unsure of what's happening. How are
Hmm.
you kind of dealing with that and talking to your
Well,
people in business?
even the local ones I'm not seeing anymore unless it's on a Zoom call.
Right.
But literally, my work generally after the initial strategy session, which is generally done up front, up close and personal, and
Hmm.
we usually spend almost a full day together, just in a room with a whiteboard. Talking war and peace kind of thing, and
Hmm.
really hammering it out and getting down to the bare bones of like who they are, what they stand for, what they don't stand for, what their thresholds are. And so I, believe it or not, I actually signed a new client in the last month
Nice.
while this was all going on over a Zoom call. I canceled my flight, and I had the 2-3 hour Zoom call with the CEO, and we pulled it off.
Yeah.
So it's not that it can't be done; it
Hmm.
can. And the thing is, the key is this communications level, right? So I have meetings with them, update meetings with them weekly. Their choice, their day, their time,
Hmm.
doesn't matter. I have one client. I'm up all hours because
Yeah.
I have one client who's in California,
Hmm.
so that's already the same time zone that you're in.
Yeah.
So everything's late there.
Hmm.
They have an affiliate business in India. So on Thursday night, I'm talking to the marketing department in India at 11 p.m. my time.
Oh man. Yeah.
Right. So, and that's an hour. And,
Hmm.
and there's a project meeting after that if I want to hop on, if I feel I need to get more insight from these
Yeah.
individuals.
Hmm.
So my day's totally different, right? So, I mean, if I can, I might take a nap in the afternoon,
Right.
and and I've also, I've learned to coast myself, like pace myself, right?
Hmm.
The thing is, the business I do gets done. It
Hmm.
doesn't really matter whether it's done at 2:30 in the morning or 2:30 in the
Right.
afternoon,
Yes.
because it's as effective, right?
Yeah.
In fact, if anything, I like to switch it up a little bit to see, if that has any value for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not harassed by this current shutdown, lockdown, except for the fact that I do absolutely enjoy banging around with people, right? That's the only thing. I'm a touchy-feely guy, right? Like
You guys do go out a lot too, like just to different places in where you live, and like I'm always like, oh, that looks like such a cool place wherever you guys are going, and you guys always are looks like you're having just a blast when you guys are out. So yeah, that is hard.
And you have to be careful, right? That's all there is right now. In fact, I was speaking to an artist friend, Andrea, in New Jersey, and they are on lockdown after 8 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
They actually have a city curfew. She lives in a small town next to New York in New Jersey, and it's shut down. Like you're not allowed on the streets.
Yeah.
So I actually feel lucky.
Yeah, that you can still go and kind of be out a little bit. That's the thing. It is. I work from home, and I'm like not as social as I used to be, but I still enjoy going out. Like, let's go somewhere. Last night was a little challenging. I was feeling a little claustrophobic, kind of going, okay, and it was nothing that did it. It was just because, and I thought, oh my gosh, like this is so, this can be hard.
Yeah. Well, I had, I'll be frank with you. This week I had one day that I think I bottomed out. I'm probably the most enthusiastic, upbeat person generally.
Yeah.
But it just hit me. Like it's almost like it's into the fourth week, fifth week, and I just hit the wall. And even Jude said to me, she said, wow, what's wrong with you? Like you're not, she saw it right away, like the body language and everything. And, reality is it took me almost a day and a half to spring back. Yeah. And the fact is, I had also got a piece of bad news that a close friend of mine in a city just next to us, lost her dad in one of the in a senior's home. Yeah. And those things are hotbeds right now for the virus. I mean, that's all there is to it. So I thought, but it actually was the one thing that helped me spring back, because I went, even though I was sad about that for her, I thought to myself, I really don't have anything wrong with me at all.
That's right.
What am I doing? What am I moaning and complaining about, right? So get up.
Yeah, you got to move. Like, I mean, in your own house, get up, move. That's why I always say find a little bit of joy in something. It can be for 5 minutes, but find that somewhere in your day, because it can. And I mean, parents right now having to homeschool their kids. I can't even, they all deserve a medal. Like, I said to my oldest daughter, I said, aren't you glad this didn't happen when you were young? She said, yes, Mom. I would have been terrible. Like, that would not have been my strength. But, so going back to, I guess we'll go on back to You Are Your Brand. Let's kind of keep on that. So what are some good pointers for people to people, in my experience, are very scared to be in front of their camera.
Right.
I can't be in front of, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be on camera, blah, blah, blah. And I keep saying, you don't have to be in front of the camera.
Right.
Show whatever you're doing. Take a little video clip of your work, kind of like showing your customers what you're doing. How do you get people to get out of that comfort zone into that next level?
Well, there's introverts that run great companies too. Actually, I admire some of those senior introverts that I've met in my efforts, and they still won't go on camera. But then what I've done is I've kind of got creative with them a little bit. I first start with an introvert. I first start by doing a kind of a face-to-face interview that I will not record. Right. And I'll give them the questions in written format, and they'll answer them. And then what I do is I build out almost a scenario. It's almost like writing a book report, if you will. It's I write a press release about the fact that I interviewed them. So I actually do the physical interview. I just don't show the video.
Right.
So that helps them. The next step, and I've already accomplished that with this one introvert, is actually run a webinar where he or she is not the focus of the event.
Right.
There's a group of people, so there's a different kind of comfort zone because they're amongst friends, and even though it was videoed, they forgot about it because they're just having a chat with their friends, right?
Yes, right.
So that's one way to get out. That's one way that I've mastered getting around that. But if they're steadfast and they don't want to, I will ghostwrite, or I will actually be the voice of the organization for them. That's the other way I do it.
Right. Yeah. We've got a number of people in the industry that I work in currently that we've got a lot that are very good about. Some of them are awesome. And one in particular who is he's naturally just a funny guy. So when he's doing videos, everybody wants to watch. So he's just naturally that way. But it's hard for a lot of people. But when you said that about, if the focus isn't on them, at that conference we were at in Pasadena, there was one of the guys just decided to go live with a group of them and just talk about their industry and what's working for them. And it was the group that was there are the group that would never probably go on camera, and it was probably one of the best lives they've done.
That's
because
awesome.
They were just talking with each other, kind of forgot that we were like, I'm standing there like filming them or whatever, but like it was so good because they were focused on what they're passionate about.
Right. The inherent value of which you just spoke is what your brand is about. It's like getting to this really unique level of freedom to speak and say it, from your heart, without even thinking about it, those kinds of things. And I try to bring that out in people through conversation, through interaction. And I do usually get them to fess up about the stuff that they don't like too, because that's so important, because you need to know how to manage them as much as manage the messaging, the narrative, the story.
Yeah.
And actually story is actually everything. If you can get them involved in a storytelling setup, if you can get them to, how did that happen to you? Just the way you said, where did you come from?
Yeah.
How did you get a start? Like what was so fantastic? You know what? More people will buy from that level of intimacy than they will if I said, oh, you should buy this book, right? And because I wrote it, right? Big deal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And that's the thing. People, it's don't sell what you're selling.
No.
It's you need to sell yourself.
Absolutely.
And your story. And that's what people want to, that's what they'll buy into. But it's also the thing, I've talked to somebody else, and it was interesting because we were talking about how it's hard in some cases. People that are like late 20s, early 30s can use social media like nobody's business when it comes to just goofing around.
Right. When
it comes to converting that into how to do it for business, there's a disconnect there. Right. We've seen it a number of times, and I'm like, they know how to use social media so well, and it's just goofing around. But when they have to convert it to business, they get into this like, like I've got to be serious, and it's a funny space.
Right, and I think it's, I think there's something about when you put a camera in front of somebody and ask them to demonstrate something or to talk to you about something. It's like almost their brain switches disconnects, right?
Yeah.
It's like, whereas if you were just having a soft conversation with them and had a camera over here, just catching it without telling them, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually the way that I do my interviews too, that are on camera, is I have the camera at the side, getting a soft view of them, so you're never looking directly into their eyes, and they forget, and they're talking to me.
Yes.
Which is awesome. Right. Those are the best ones, and they're the most effective pieces of content that we develop. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's a very interesting thing, because that people are nervous, I think, to be themselves a little bit. Like it's that vulnerability of like, oh, like everybody's going to see me now. I'm a little scared of that, but it's real is the only way to be.
You jumped in with both feet. I remember the first time I saw you on live, and I went, "Oh my God! Like, what's she doing?"
Yeah.
Like, boom.
I just kind of did, and it's funny. I watched my very, very first video I ever did, and I was like, I remember it was in the car, and we were parked at a parking lot, and I just like picked up my phone and I recorded it and I posted it. I didn't do it more than once. Rex looked at me, he goes, "How do you do that?" I'm like, I don't know, I just do. But
I know.
I find the more people do video, like Instagram stories, Facebook stories, that's kind of where I tell people, like, start there, because it's just a quick little, whatever it is, minute or 30 seconds or whatever. Right. Get yourself used to being in front of there, because after you do it, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't even kind of worry about it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look at my crappy hair. I mean, I haven't been to the barbers for a while, right?
Oh, Lord.
I've got it all slicked back like Michael Douglas, right? Like back. It's like Back to the Future for me. Like.
Oh man, yeah. All the barbers, all the hairstylists, all the nail people, all those, they're going to be flooded. They're going to be flooded.
It's going to be a bunch of bears show up one day when everything's over, and they go, "I don't recognize this. This guy's way too hairy."
Right. Everybody's appointment is now going to be more than an hour.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
What would you say would be some of the biggest no-nos or mistakes people make when they are trying to do branding for their company or themselves?
Well, the no-nos are not associated with the actual branding itself. It's what you do after. I mean, you got to remember that if you have put yourself out there, it can be a slippery slope if you don't follow through, or if you don't maintain the integrity of the brand, right? So if you say out there that I'm client focused, we do our best for you, like something like that, and then the phone calls come in, and you do nothing, or you don't answer somebody that's trying to engage with you on social media, like, come on, like, why are you there? And that's why I caution people before they even start, because it's work. Don't get me wrong. Everybody thinks, you just put pretty pictures up there and people respond to them. I'm sorry, they don't. That's not the way it is. There's more strategy behind that. It's like what you put up, how you put up. Are you going to connect with the right brain? Are you going to connect with the left brain? I mean, you've got to know these things. But if you aren't, if you're going to post once and then let it go, and then a month later I'm going to post again, like, who's going to know you?
Right.
Like, you've got to follow through. You have to present yourself. I liken it. It's the only thing we ever had as business people in the past was our reputation. I liken our brands today. It really is just our reputation. So when you think about it, your reputation is not what you think it is. It's actually it's what somebody else thinks of you, right? When you're not in the room, right? So
exactly.
You have to be careful what you wish for, right? When you take on these the social media roles, because and the other thing is patience. Holy mackerel! The times people come up to me after 2 weeks into a program and say, "I haven't got a new customer yet."
Yep.
And I'm thinking, are you crazy?
Yep.
Disney didn't have any customers, right? It took years. Come on. You have to shove it and push it and shove it.
Yeah, that's the thing that people, I think, because we've become such an instant society, right? Like, we want something right now, that people forget you have to build that relationship. You have to have those, and it could take forever. You cannot go into, and I'll use like what I am in, is you can't go into any kind of a group, if you're
Right.
selling a product, like if it's a piece of equipment or a chemical or whatever it is, you can't go in there and post on advertising day and go, oh, I'm going to get all these sales and not
Right.
interact ever again. You
No.
have to interact. You have to let people know who you are. And it is consuming, and it is like patience and all of those things. You have to
Right.
build your relationships.
Yeah. In fact, I actually I've been asked a number of times what my preferential approach is if you're not quite sure what to do and
Yeah.
not quite sure what to post. I actually look for opportunities within the social platforms that I work on to engage, right?
Right.
Rather than dream up an idea,
Yep.
somebody's already probably talking about it in your realm, in your domain. If you do some searching and if you do some serious looking, you will find somebody that has said something that resonates with you, and you may have an opinion on it, or you may just want to support that individual's thought patterns, right?
Right.
And that's actually how I get people to start. Like start talking to people because they'll go, hey, this guy said something really nice about my company. I think I'd like to connect with him,
Right.
and that we might have a chance of collaborating. I don't know, but people should not look at the person that they're talking to as the highest impact, because the highest impact point is the people behind that person. Like if you take a look at the process of LinkedIn particularly, it's built on the 6 degrees of separation findings, right?
Yeah.
So that theory is that behind each person there's a various layers and levels of people that are probably just as interesting to you. You just use the individual that you're connected with as a gateway. So most of the business that people find on a platform like LinkedIn, for instance, is not with the person they're connected to, but it's with the person that's connected behind in the second level.
Yep.
There's millions in there.
Yes.
And you'll never run out. And if you never did anything else except ask someone who you're friendly with, do you know somebody who you think might, it's almost like, what's wrong with that? Like, step up and ask, right?
Right.
Learn to ask, but learn to also position yourself as somebody worth talking to, right? By engaging. And that's not a secret.
Yeah.
It's just the way that's the way life always was. Hey, Joe, I'm going to invite you to this networking. I want you to meet Tom. And
right.
Guess what? It's online.
Yeah.
You're just not doing it, in bars anymore, right? It's
exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. I've got a number of friends who are, in maybe some MLM businesses and that type of thing. And my thing is always with them, the way I can help you with your business is I'm sharing your post. And I'm going to make sure my network can see what you, just because I'm not buying from you doesn't mean somebody else in my network isn't. And it takes 2 seconds for people to do that. They're scared to do it, I think, because they've been overrun with people who have abused the private messaging and bombarding and that old bad tactic. But for the most part, I mean, to share somebody's business, like post and say, if somebody in my network, that's how you now network in this day and age. The other thing is I wanted to go back to the comments in those platforms. There's a kind of a thought process out there with some people that social media is just a waste of time. It's a time suck and all of that. And you know what? These groups are they're like some kind of club where everybody can come together and just bitch and moan and whatever. And I've said this to people. You're looking at that in a very different way than I do. If you are looking at a post and it's maybe like not a great post about a company, let's say, and they all get on the bandwagon and people are going to complain, or they're going to rah. So you're going to get all the opinions. You're getting raw truth right there. Don't be offended by what people are being nasty about. take out of that, that's gold to me for
Yeah.
any company. That's
Yeah.
gold.
Absolutely. Actually, one of the things you have to realize, my friend Ryan Foland in California, shout out to him. He's the one that's banged this into my head. He goes, Peter, you're not for anyone and you're not for everyone.
Right.
Like, there's a person that's going to reach out to you based on whatever it is you posted. Even if it was a crappy post, they're going to say, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
You're my friend because we think alike. And
Right.
I said I only post for one person. And it's that person. I don't know who you are. You'll put your hand up once I put it out there. And it happens more than once a day. Trust me. Right?
Yeah.
Because me, I'm a very prolific poster. I post every day on behalf of myself, behalf of my clients, behalf of my collaborators. I probably give away more stretch and more support than I get for myself. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's my reputation. That's my posture. So that you don't think that a client would like that. They love it. That, oh my God, you're so helpful. You're kind. Yeah,
exactly.
I loved that post that I'm a big fan of Buddha. And it is, and before you speak, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Like, God, if you just put yourself into that frame of mind before you did anything, like, boom.
Yeah.
Like you're done.
Yeah. And it is, people are so fast to give their input and their opinions. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes your opinion's not welcome. Think about what you're saying before it comes out of your mouth. Right? And I mean, we are all guilty of it. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
But it's, I've had the experience too where I've, been with companies who have, there's been things how their business was run previously and it was not run well. They're coming in, they've got a new group of people, they're trying to kind of come out of that, but there are so many people that are, that old reputation and all the wrongdoings that went on.
Right.
How, trying to get somebody to understand how to rebrand that without letting their ego get in the way.
Right.
Is very challenging. And it's one of those things that sometimes you do have to take the punches and they're not nice. But if you come out without being aggressive and you can, I believe you can turn that around. I think you can turn it around.
100%. I've been in a rebranding position before. I had a client and I worked with them for it took me about 8 months to get them from I'm not sure who we are anymore to I totally understand who we are. And they were a consulting firm that had acquired another group of consultants. And so there was a real mixed bag about, who they were. And there was some good things, as you mentioned. There's some bad things. There's some things that, were probably best forgotten, in all honesty. So literally, I just focused on the assets of the organization rather than the organization itself. It's like, what does the organization itself represent to the market? And take a look at the assets. And the assets of a consulting company is always the brain power of the individuals that work for it. Because it's a billable business. It's not like you can put something in a box, take it over to your client and say, okay, that'll be $3,000, please. That just doesn't happen, right? So the reality is brain power. So really what I did is I turned that company a little bit on its tail because I interviewed all the key individuals in the organization and showcased them on social media. Yeah. Well, there were some really amazing individuals in this organization that nobody even knew existed.
Right.
So you see, that over carried, like it beat everything down. The good, the bad, the ugly, that all went away because the focus now was on these great people who did great things for this really decent company.
Yeah.
And there you go. Simple as, I know it was simple. It's not simple when it takes 8 months, but but that's
Yeah,
really how we tackled it.
it can be done. And I mean, people tend to hold on to that old, like, they like that, drama and all that stuff. And it's like trying to break them away from that.
Oh
And
boy.
say, you know what? This is a different company with different people now. Let's focus on the new, and getting some of those people over to the other side is a challenge. But it can be done. It can be done, I think.
Some of them don't belong there. I mean, you gotta figure it out. It's it's their best by date might be over. Who knows?
Well, that's true. Yeah, not everybody is your customer either.
No,
so it's knowing who your customers are and speaking their language, and
totally.
all of those things. So
100%.
Yeah. What was I going to ask you? You touched on being an author as well. You're an author too, aren't you?
Well, I haven't written a book, but I do ghostwrite articles. I ghostwrite articles and press releases and things like that. I don't know that I know that there's a book in me, but I wouldn't want to.
Haven't done it yet.
No, I wouldn't socially want to commit to it, but I do enjoy writing. I do enjoy creative writing, and I usually mix things up, and when I put some thought to it rather than just simply the banging it out, right? That's all there is to it. And I find you probably feel this way yourself. I think most people that serve others tend to do a better job for somebody else than they do for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So when I try to go into the mind of my client and I start to know them, it's funny, but I actually have one client said, "Oh my gosh, I don't remember saying that." She said to me.
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, you didn't. I wrote that. I wrote that scenario. I built a scenario, and I built up an interview." And she goes, "I'm brilliant," she says. I said, "Yes,
wonderful person.
You are. But I mean, her intent's there. It's just that I extrapolated it out of her and put it into writing form. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say you ghostwrite for people, are you doing like blog posts for them?
Yes.
Or is it articles, or what kind of ghostwriting are you doing?
Yeah, all of the above.
Okay.
So I will actually do blogs. I will do press releases, or I will run the back end of their. I will run also the back end of their profiles, right? So that this may sound silly, but I publicly have conversations with myself, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But as a busy CEO of a large organization doesn't have time, like a better use of his time is to be doing the strategic work.
Right.
As long as I know that I'm in the head of the strategy guy, and that and that I can put his best foot forward, then that's exactly what we do. Yeah. There's no secret to that. That's not we've been doing that forever.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, people write books for other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So, and it's always funny because people they think they're talking to that person, and no, that's probably not who you're talking to, but.
Nope. But that's the strategy too, because if you think about it, you need to place something in a spot where you already know you have the answer to, or you have a redirect on that, and then you bring in somebody else, or you draw in another individual to build on that conversation. I mean, it's not smoke and mirrors. I'm very transparent about it, with my clients. I'm very transparent about it with my pursuits too. Yeah. Because I do actually go after business for them, and I do help my clients close business. That's the difference between a social media guy who puts pictures and posts and blogs together, and a strategist who's also involved in the grabbing and the pursuit and the closing of business, which is what I do. Yeah. And that's my differentiator. And that differentiator comes from having the experience in doing that in a retail operation, in a logistics firm, in an IT firm, in a consulting basis. So I mean, there probably isn't too much that I haven't seen in regards to business, both from an operational position, a selling position. You know, like I said, I've never been the marketing guy. You know, I just use the tools that I have in front of me to get my message out there.
Right. We had Michael Nast was on. Was that last week? Yeah. And
yeah.
You're familiar with Mr. Nast?
I am familiar with Mr. Nast. He's one. I think JJ introduced me to him.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah. And it was interesting. He talked about how when he is dealing with somebody, and I mean, I would say the most well-known person that he has dealt with that people would know on social media is Grant Cardone.
Right.
And what he said, and I found this so funny because people are scared to do this, but he just said to him, you know, they were talking and this is in the very beginning, and he just said to him, "You suck. That's what the problem is you suck." And I'm like, and he said, it doesn't matter to me what position somebody is.
Yeah.
If they're terrible at it, he goes, I tell them. And then we go from there. And I'm like, that's nervy and it's smart, but that can be a slippery slope.
Oh, Mike is an odd character in that regard. He is actually not afraid to open his mouth and put the other foot in, right? He really isn't. And I've seen him. I mean, we've had some in the early days when him and I were tweeting together and sharing tweets, and we'd even get into like functional arguments with individuals, and he'd call them out.
Oh yeah.
And tell them exactly what you said.
Yes.
Right? You say, yeah, you suck. So like, get off this platform and make room for somebody who means something. Right?
Yeah, he's a master because the thing about him with social media too, he gets the conversation started, and it doesn't always, it's not always good, but he does get the conversation started.
Yeah,
and
no, he's. I wouldn't say he's. Yeah, he doesn't really start confrontational. He just does. He just says things that are, you know, a little bit out of character, right?
Right.
Mind you, he's had some really interesting work with guys. I think he still is with Drew Pearson from the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Right?
He's I think the executive producer of his show, and he's done very well. The other person I wanted to mention too is you, and who I don't know him, but I follow him and engage with him once in a while, is Hank Norman.
Oh, my buddy.
Yes.
Hank and I have been introduced together like early days through a friend who is not on social anymore. And Hank, and of course Hank and I have met up a few times, at least twice anyway. In fact, I was just with him this past November in New York. Our family came. My wife's cousin Bernie and her husband Gary and their two daughters met us in New York in November.
Nice.
So they're from the UK, and we went there. And of course, I took an evening out and met up with Hank. Hank is another one of those very vibrant, very honest, very down to earth, super guys. I mean, and he is actually a star maker because he actually literally gets people to come out of their skin. Yeah. And like just be yourself, for God's sakes. Like, you know, like no one's going to pay you to be somebody else. Like, stop it already. Like, he's one of, like, Hank's given me so many kicks in the pants. It isn't funny, right? And even in November, he goes, yeah. No, I get you that you are your brand. He says, but what the hell are you? Like, you know, he's one of those guys.
Yes, right? He
looks into your eyes and you go, oh my God, what did I just do?
Oh no,
I know, like, what am I going to say next to this guy? But he is a brilliant guy in his mind. Like, I mean, he's and people think he's kind of aggressive and ornery with you, but he's not. He really means it. Yes. He has a heart of gold. Like, he's a solid guy. He's He's a country boy from the Northeast,
Yeah.
for God's sake. Grew up on a farm. He's just happens to be New York now. I mean, he lives in the heart of it,
Yeah.
right?
That and
but
the way he does do his stuff, that's what drew me to him, because it's a little bit that Gary V kind of blunt. He doesn't curse like Gary V as much, but like
Nope.
very blunt, very like in your face a little bit, like,
yeah,
you know, kind of like you say, shaking you up, going like, what are you doing? Like, who are
Right.
you? Like, just
Yeah.
be you. And he has worked with some very,
well,
like,
he's a great coach, and
Yeah.
I think you follow the one lady, Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
That, you know, he's the guy behind her.
Yeah.
He's the guy behind the old View show with Barbara
Right.
Walters, for God's sakes. Like,
Yeah.
this guy's been in television. He understands media, right?
Yes.
He's been behind the camera, and he threw him, like, to his credit, he threw himself in front of the camera.
Right.
So he's never asking you to do anything that he wouldn't do himself. And
Right.
I love that kind of leadership.
Yeah.
You know, that is like, you know, that's okay. If there's a consequence to this, I'm going to feel it too.
Exactly.
And I love that about him, right? I just think he's just like probably one of the most solid people I feel fortunate that I have the kind of relationship that I do with Hank, where where I'd say, Hank, what do you think about this? And he'd say, drop it.
Right.
I'd have no reason to doubt why.
Yeah.
I just, you know what, drop it. Like,
Yeah.
get on with it. You know, like, that's the kind of guy he is. Yeah.
I've seen, not recently, but before, I've seen posts where he'll put up kind of a statement, and then the people in the comments, and I always love watching the comments, because that's where he's good. He engages, but he doesn't ever get into, he sometimes has gotten into a battle, but like he'll go,
Right.
oh, okay, that's great. That's your opinion. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's the guy that's perfect. He goes, you're entitled to that.
Yeah.
It's not that great, but you're entitled to it.
Yeah. And people don't know what to do with that, because they're
Nothing.
like,
No.
What do you do next?
You know, Hank is the person who probably says something that you're thinking.
Yes.
That's what he does. And he has this way of looking at you.
Yeah.
And kind of feeling it. And he goes, I know exactly what you're thinking. I know exactly what you're thinking. Your body's giving it. You're oozing with this. And it's just these 3 words. And I go, oh, like that, like, it's like a knife, you know?
Yes.
Right into you. And it's like, oh my God, you are like a seer, right? But he's not, because he's just so in touch with himself. He knows what he likes. He knows what he hates. He knows what he has a shitty threshold for.
Yeah.
He hates this kind of crap, and he hates that, you know, and there's a lesson in there for all of us, right? Because you aren't everything to anyone and everyone, you know, like, just be if you, like, Hank's real happy with himself.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And that's a very admirable position for anyone to be in, is if you're happy with yourself. Like, what the hell? Why would you care about anybody else raining on your parade, so to speak? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Forget it.
He's so. I have always enjoyed his stuff, and the thing too, I find with people when they're putting themselves out there and there are social media, you may not even like that person. Like, that personality might not vibe with you.
Right.
But what they say. And if you can get the message out of what they're saying, listen for the message. Take away all the whatever, fluff and stuff. But if they've got something that they're getting across to you, take that message and run with it. They're giving you stuff for free all the time. Like, those guys are always saying things, those conversations. People fall into that, well, they just want to start a debate. And there's a reason behind that post. And if you can pick up what that is, you're onto something.
No, totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
I have had you on here for an hour.
Oops.
So I
didn't feel like that.
I know it never does. So I want to just, Mike put up a question on our screen here, and it says, would you go on live video to grow your business, yes or no? So we'll have to see how people answered that. So, and we've had a number of people on here. Debbie I don't want to mispronounce her name.
Co-
Covello?
Coviello. Debbie
There we go.
Coviello.
She was on here and she just said she
Hi,
had to
Deb.
go off, and she said great conversation. Oh, yeah, Mike said when we were going back to the trade shows 2 years ago, he was on an iPad connected to a bot, like a robot thing, and he could go down. He was live. He could go through the crowd and interact with people. We were talking and commentating that whole thing. It was so awesome. It was really, really a fun thing. So
cool.
Yeah, it was different, and yeah. So we've got somebody on here says they have family in Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to go back through all these comments, but
that's Yorkshire. That's the next county over from where I was.
There we go.
A very famous history piece. There was the war. You probably heard of the War of the Roses.
Yes.
Lancashire and the Red Rose and White Rose. It was the two counties were in kind of civil war with one another way back in history.
Oh, is that where that came from?
Yeah. War of the Roses.
Funny. Oh, very interesting.
Henry Tudor, Henry VIII.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
very
absolutely.
Interesting. I didn't realize that, but
there's so much history in the UK. It's like that's what's so magnificent actually about that beautiful little island is that there is so much history there, right?
Yeah.
We're here in Canada, like we're a baby,
right?
In the grand scheme of the world, right?
For sure. Yeah, I know when Mom and I were over and we were in Italy, and that was the thing. Like we aren't normally we're not really history people, so we were kind of like, well, like I guess we'll be there and there'll be history and like okay, whatever. You cannot not appreciate that history. Like we were just like walking around with our mouths hanging open, I'm sure, because it was just like everywhere, and it's so it draws you in. You can't not appreciate and love it because it's so amazing.
The two human flycatchers from Canada with their
mouths. Yes, that's what we were.
Oh God!
It was so incredible, and it's just you just fall in love with it for sure.
No,
so
sure.
Do you have anything you want to say to wrap things up, and how closing comments on business and strategy?
Well, I mean, just as it's timely right now, I think one of the things that that everyone that I work with is talking about is the fact of remaining relevant in the way and the best way to remain relevant is actually to help the people that can't, right? I mean, in all honesty, when I think about there's, my post this morning was like, the strong people, should be helping those that can't get through this thing right now because this playing field has never been so level, ever, globally. Right? When I think about it, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, how big a name you are. This thing is totally, you're just now a person on the human race, right? Nothing, you can't buy your way out of this thing.
Yeah.
So like the best thing you can do for yourself, actually is most rewarding, is to help the person sitting next to you that is unable to figure it out, and we're doing a lot of that. I'm purposely helping, talk people off ledges, so to speak, and just get normal, not necessarily get happy with themselves, but normalize it, right?
Right.
I mean, I need it myself. I mean, thankfully, I've got people I can reach out to and go, hey, I'm having a bad day, and I hope we all get through this. And even Tom Peters reached out to me on Twitter today, and he made a statement. He says, he goes, I'm not holding my breath. I hope this thing's going to be over soon.
Yeah.
And I was just having a chat with Mark Crowley out in La Jolla, and he jumped in, and I just said, Tom, when this whole thing is over, I said, we're going to throw one hell of a party.
Yeah.
I says, and hell, I said, we're going to have it at your place because I love New England. and,
Yeah.
and he said to me, Peter, you will be the first person, the first recipient
Right.
on that invite list. And I'm thinking, that's Tom Peters,
Yeah.
the author, the very
Yeah.
famous servant leadership guy,
Yeah.
the In Search of Excellence book, way back.
Right.
He's written so many.
Yeah.
That conversation proves what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's much smarter than I am, but guess what? He's in the same boat as I am.
Yes.
Right? That's it.
Yeah.
And he realized that, okay, so I've got another human being that just connected with me. You know what? I appreciate that, and I'm going to connect back.
Yeah. And that's
all.
really what it's about.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good day if you've done that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because like I have said many times, there is no handbook on how to get through this. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing. We're all doing the best we can every day. Maybe not, but like we're trying to get through the day as best we can, maybe.
Right.
Some days are going to be good. Some days are going to be terrible.
Right.
Who was I watching? Marie Forleo yesterday. I was watching an interview with her, and she said, you know what? Sometimes we just have shit-tastic days. And I thought, that is a beautiful term, because you know what? That's true.
That's fantastic. Shit-tastic days.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So, it's bad, but it might be really exceptionally bad. Like, it's just is what it is. And if we can be there to support each other, no matter who you are, because like you said, it's a level playing field, and it's reset, and it's all of those things. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, today's been fantastic. This is a great start for mine.
I am so happy you did this, and I know you are so busy. And when you said you'd come on, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited, because I know you're super busy. You've taken time out of your schedule to talk to me about business, like when I was asking you questions about my business and pricing structures and different things. And that conversation, I appreciated that so much, because you gave me a piece of advice that I used immediately. And that that piece of advice was, you told me when I do my little message that I do, you are loved, you matter. You said some days, you know what, you seem like you're just saying that because you think you should be saying it. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, that is very true. And I have ever since then have tried to be very mindful of that and go, should I, do I need to say that today? Probably not. I'm just not. And it's not that I don't mean it. I mean it every day. But yeah, I knew what you meant, and I appreciated that so much.
And actually, kudos to you for being as transparent as that, as even just talk about it, even right now. That's fantastic, because that was a private conversation. So I'm giving you you're getting whoop whoop from here, because that was awesome. Well done.
It's just I don't want people to ever think that it's like all peachy keen. Like, that's the thing too, is like, you know what, some days I'm just not feeling that vibe, and I do mean it every time I say it, but there is a way to say it and there's a way not to say it, and I appreciated you bringing that to my attention.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, so thank you so much for spending this time with us. I appreciate it very much.
It's perfect.
Yeah, and
thank you.
Yeah, I think we're going to put in there everywhere you can be found, but can you just let people know where you are and how they can find you?
Well, being the prolific social media guy I am on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and actually Speaker Hub is something I've tackled now this year, is actually speaking engagements. And I think I've also got my link to my my art collection a little bit there too. Yeah. So yeah. All right.
I'm gonna. We've got somebody putting it in the comments, so they'll be able to find you.
Boom.
So I would encourage anybody who's in business, reach out to Peter, because he is remarkable at what he does. And Peter, thank you so much for coming on. It means the world to me. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks very much. That was so kind of
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody who's watching, and we'll go through the comments and we'll do that afterwards, but I appreciate everybody who always tunes in. They always keep coming back every Saturday, and it's
That's
always,
great.
yeah, it's always like, I'm like, they're coming back again, yay! So yeah, I hope you guys all have a great Saturday, and do find that little bit of joy somewhere today, if you can find it for even 5 minutes today. I hope you guys all have an awesome day. Thank you again, Peter, and we will catch you guys all next Saturday. And it is Chelsea Whitley who is coming on next Saturday, so we will be chatting with her. But anyways, you guys, bye for now.
Cheers.